Kushner actually speaking out loud following his testimony before a Senate committee.
My name is Jared Kushner. I am senior advisor to President Donald J. Trump. When my father-in-law decided to run for president, I served his campaign the best I could.
I told you that's what his voice sounded like. I told you, and you wouldn't believe me. Now, that happened on Monday. That happened this Monday. And if it feels like that happened a month ago, that's all thanks to President Trump, who seems to be bending the space-time continuum in order to fill a week with more news than it can scientifically contain. And this week may have actually been notable, not just for the terrible things Trump tried to do, but for how terribly he tried to do them. Take what happened on Wednesday morning.
A policy pronouncement from the President of the United States. He just took a major stance saying that he will ban transgender people from serving in the U.S. military.
Look, that is as hateful as it is pointless. But it means that we may already be entering the Mad Libs portion of Trump's presidency, where he just persecutes groups at random. Transgender people banned from the military. Pacific Islanders can no longer use the postal service. And Jews can no longer high-five. Sorry, Jews. And to make this even worse, Trump not only announced this policy over Twitter, but across 3 tweets, the first of which read, "After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow." Then there was a 9-minute gap. Presumably, while he finished his breakfast of deep-fried Big Macs and mashed Doritos. And according to one report, even his own generals were concerned about what might be coming next.
It was reported that generals at the Pentagon were nervous for 9 minutes till the second tweet came out because they thought the president might be declaring war on North Korea. That's a pretty scary thought.
A pretty scary thought. No, Donald Trump declaring war on North Korea with a tweet is the scariest 10 consecutive words in the English language. And I'm including on that list, "A clown waits for you in your house softly whistling." And "Sharks can fly now and they know where you live." And as the military soon informed the president, it doesn't take its marching orders from fucking Twitter.
General Joseph Dunford said, quote, "There will be no modification to the current policy until the order goes through the proper channels."
Exactly. The military needs instructions delivered through the proper chain of command. You cannot change policy over the same channels that Justin Bieber once used to tweet, "Random shout out to all my sexy ladies, ha ha." Meanwhile, there was also a development regarding the repeal of Obamacare, which, remember, was a signature goal for Donald Trump's presidency, along with, presumably, passing comprehensive pro-daughter dating legislation and getting to second base with a truck. Well, this week, the repeal ran aground in spectacular fashion.
The GOP drive to repeal Obamacare fell apart at 1:29 a.m. Eastern Time.
Mr. McCain.
When Arizona Senator John McCain flashed a thumbs down, drawing gasps and some applause from Democrats.
Wow, I haven't seen a group of senators break into spontaneous applause like that since Every Time Ted Cruz Leaves a Room. Oh, he's going. Fuck that guy. Now, McCain's vote was an incredibly dramatic moment, although CNN could not help trying to amp up the drama even more.
1:29 a.m. Senator McCain re-enters the chamber. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stands at the front of the room like he had most of the night. McCain waves his hand to get the attention of the Senate clerk, pauses for just a moment, and gives a dramatic thumbs down. Senator Elizabeth Warren leans in to get a better look and breaks into applause. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a single assertive clap.
Meanwhile, Senator Roy Blunt shakes his fist at the heavens, wondering how an omniscient God could be so cruel, while Senator Claire McCaskill does something that looks like the Macarena, and the ghost of Strom Thurmond carves a racial epithet into a wooden desk using the blunted edge of a mechanical pencil. In any other week, that face would be the least diplomatic thing you had ever seen in your life. But this was also a week when Donald Trump's ambassador to Somalia presented that country's president with a hat reading, "Make Somalia Great Again," and Trump himself took on the fraught Israeli-Palestinian two-state solution in the most casual possible way.
Looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one.
If I may paraphrase the people of Sweden for a second, what the fuck are you talking about? The whole problem is the people on each side who want a one-state solution generally cannot agree on what state it should be. No one's really expecting them to suddenly say, hey, we agreed on one state and it's Peru. Shalom, salam aleikum, welcome to Peru. But that right there is the problem. Here we are talking about Trump again because you cannot avoid him. In the past week alone, Trump designated the media as enemies of the American people, had his EPA-hating nominee for head of the EPA confirmed, lost his nominee for Labour Secretary and his National Security Advisor, and signed a bill undoing Barack Obama's protections for waterways from coal mining waste, a signing that he capped off with this wonderful gesture.
So how about we give the pen, it's a great pen, how about we give that to the miners?
That's perfect. Leave it to Trump to give 7 people 1 pen. He must just expect them all to share it like some kind of brotherhood of the travelling pen. That might be the laziest instance of pen gifting I've ever seen, and I'm very much including every other time someone has given a pen as a gift. Oh, great, an expensive pen. It's different than a regular pen because I get to worry about losing it and no other reasons. But perhaps nothing summed up Trump's week better than his batshit crazy press conference on Thursday, including this amazing exchange with an African-American journalist.
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic
Well, I would.
Caucus,
I tell you what, do you want to set up the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of yours?
I'm just a reporter.
No, set up the meeting.
know.
The man is incredible, because what hits you first there is the racism of assuming that all black people are friends. And then it's not until later that you really appreciate the sexism of thinking all women are there to perform secretarial tasks for you. The guy packed so much into so little. In fact, his press conference was so unhinged that many of the reporters covering it had the same initial response.
Wow.
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 Wow? Yeah, wow.
Yes. Wow, indeed. A presidential press conference elicited the same reaction you get from people who just watch someone shoot fireworks out of his arse. Which, when you think about it, is actually fitting. Because whenever Trump speaks, what is it essentially other than just random sparks and flames sputtering noisily out of a damaged arsehole? And now, this.
And now, Fox and Friends is painfully aware of who is watching them.
I know Donald Trump is watching, is up right now, and I imagine watching. So if you want us to check your schedule, see if we have the same one, Mr. President.
All right, Donald Trump watches this show. Tweet us this morning. Let us know what was going on there.
If Donald Trump's watching, tweet us and just say we're going to Mars.
You know, Donald Trump watches his show. And, you know, Donald Trump does watch your show.
But Donald Trump watches every day. He's like a groupie.
I know if Donald Trump is watching, he probably hasn't heard about it. And we know that Donald Trump watches the show. So, Donald, it's more than ISIS, Mr. President-elect. For example, Muslim Brotherhood. Donald Trump is watching. He doesn't love when you talk and eat.
Oh, I'll be very elegant then.
I watched this morning a couple of the network, and I have to say, Fox and Friends in the morning, they're very honorable people.
Wow. A development regarding the president's travel ban, which the administration has long maintained is not a ban, despite what you may have heard from biased mainstream media outlets like the President of the United States and The Dictionary. You may remember Trump's original executive order halted all refugee admissions and temporarily barred people from 7 Muslim-majority countries. It was met with widespread protests and dozens of lawsuits resulting in courts placing both the ban and Trump's subsequent revision of that ban on hold. And this week, the Supreme Court got to weigh in.
The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled to partially reinstate the president's highly controversial travel ban before hearing arguments on the case in October.
Yes, at first the ban was banned, but now the court has partially banned the ban, instituting a partial ban pending the possibility of a future partial ban. Now, the court did impose some restrictions, saying it couldn't apply to anyone with a credible claim of a bona fide relationship with a person or entity in the United States. So the natural question there is, what constitutes a bona fide relationship? And the Trump administration took a swing at answering that.
The State Department has narrowly defined that as a parent or child, including in-laws, a sibling, or a spouse. The guidelines for who is considered close family does not include grandparents, aunts or uncles, nieces or nephews, cousins, and brothers or sisters-in-law.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Grandparents aren't close family? Good luck telling them that. Because that would require calling them, which would mean a 12 or 13-minute conversation at minimum, a conversation that would inevitably involve being asked whether you remember Jerry Flaxman. You know, Jerry Flaxman, who used to live down the street. Jerry Flaxman. You remember him. He had the daughter with the internet business and she's gay now. Flaxman. What was her name? Jamie? Either Jamie or Amanda. Right, Samantha Flaxman. Anyway, her father is Jerry Flaxman and, well, he's dead now. And look, while the definition of the ban is ridiculous, the impacts of it are very real, particularly for refugees, since the administration has decided that being assisted by a refugee resettlement agency does not constitute a bona fide relationship, which means thousands of desperate people who've gone through exhaustive vetting and have been approved to come here have now been left in the lurch, which is absolutely shameful. And yet, for some, it's actually no big deal. An attitude best exemplified by human lacrosse stick Tucker Carlson, who asked, #Tucker, why does America benefit from having tons of people from failing countries come here? A question that made the Statue of Liberty give up and drown herself in the Hudson River. And if I may just point out, Tux, just because a nation is failing doesn't mean it can't produce some amazing people. Just as, and I think we all know who Exhibit A for this is, a successful nation can produce some truly failed human beings. #Tucker. And look, this ban is cruel, it's unnecessary, and it undermines our standing in the world. So you would think the president would at least be justifying its existence. Instead, he keeps derailing the conversation with his barrage of bullshit. And there is simply no better example of this than the fact that just this morning, ABC's This Week had a Homeland Security advisor on to discuss the ban, but they never got around to it because they had to address yet another unhinged tweet. And just watch the guy's face as he realises what he's about to have to talk about.
I want to get to security questions and security concerns, but we've just had the president tweet a GIF that I want you to take a look at. You can see it right there. Obviously, President Trump has taken some video and put a CNN Mike logo on who he's beating up.
You know, at this point, I have no choice but to admit that Trump was right. There is at least one grandparent who poses a grave and immediate threat to America. Unfortunately, it's the grandparent currently in fucking charge of it. And now, this. The CIA. My employer. Shit! I wasn't supposed to say that. Oh, fuck, they're gonna be so mad with me. The CIA had a difficult week.
Tonight, WikiLeaks has a bomb.
I think you're watching TV. Oh, honey, that thing is watching you.
Okay, first, she should deliver all of the news. 19 dead in a blazing apartment fire, all of them children, girlfriend. But second, Weeping Angel sounds less like a spy program and more like a tactic your mom uses to keep you from masturbating. Look at the Weeping Angel, David. You did that. You made her cry. But still, you can't argue that the notion that the CIA can listen to anyone in the world through their Samsung TV is scary. But, again, if you read the documents, you'll find this program applies to Samsung TVs from 2012 and 2013, and the malware was installed via USB. So, presumably, the CIA needed to physically stick that into your TV. And even if that happened, experts advise that there's still actually a potential way to circumvent it. It's a little complicated, so I'll walk you through it. Step one, unplug the TV, and that is it. End of steps. You're off the grid. But what is most important to keep in mind here regarding these revelations is the CIA, with some narrow exceptions, is barred from spying domestically. And unlike the Snowden leaks, there is nothing in these documents so far showing illegal surveillance of Americans, which is not to say there wasn't interesting stuff in there. For instance, Weeping Angel was just the beginning of the CIA's stupid code names.
A range of CIA programs with code names like After Midnight and Brutal Kangaroo, all now in the hands of terrorists and foreign targets.
It's not just After Midnight and Brutal Kangaroo, though. Other programs were called Crunchy Lime Skies, Elder Piggy, Angerquake, and McNugget, which are also, interestingly, the names of a cappella groups at Dartmouth. You should really hear Crunchy Lime Skies' rendition of Raw. It is fierce. And look, I am not saying that these leaks are not a big deal. The mere fact that WikiLeaks obtains these documents at all is significant, and more are apparently coming, so this story is still developing. The president himself was being interviewed about Syria, where he described in surprising detail the moment that he informed Chinese President Xi Jinping that the strikes would be taking place.
I was sitting at the table, we had finished dinner, we're now having dessert, and we had the most beautiful piece of chocolate cake that you've ever seen, and President Xi was enjoying it. And I was given the message from the generals that the ships are locked and loaded. What do you do? And we made a determination to do it.
Only Donald Trump could use a conversation about missile strikes in the Middle East to advertise the cake at Mar-a-Lago. Which, by the way, you might want to think twice about trying, given that just this week it was reported the club's kitchen was cited for 13 health code violations for, among other things, fish that had not undergone proper parasite destruction and storing ham at 57 degrees. Because nothing says upscale dining like lukewarm ham with a side of tapeworm. And if you're thinking, well, hold on, perhaps the president brought up the cake because he wanted to be extra precise about every single detail. Well, let's rejoin that interview just 1 minute later.
So what happens is I said,
any information. For now, tonight, let's move on to President Trump. Two words that clearly don't belong together, but that we're all somehow getting used to hearing out loud, like Instagram celebrity or Ansel Elgort. Now, you may remember back in May, Trump suggested on Twitter that he may have tapes of his conversations with deposed FBI director and Slenderman alter ego, James Comey. Well, on Thursday, Trump finally admitted that he had no such tapes and offered up this rationale for his claim.
well, I didn't tape him. You never know what's happening when you see that the Obama administration, and perhaps longer than that, was doing all of this unmasking and surveillance, and you read all about it, and I've been reading about it for the last couple of months about the seriousness of and horrible situation with surveillance all over the place, and you've been hearing the word unmasking, a word you probably never heard before, so you never know what's out there. But I didn't tape, and I don't have any tape, and I didn't tape.
What was that? Whenever Trump talks, it's like a cross between a lottery machine that spits out words and a speak and spell that just fell into a toilet. But he wasn't done, because Trump had not yet explained the strategic brilliance of how his tweet influenced James Comey. And just wait for the reporter's follow-up at the end.
When he found out that that there may be tapes out there, whether it's governmental tapes or anything else, and who knows, I think his story may have changed. I mean, you'll have to take a look at that, because then he has to tell what actually took place at the events. And my story didn't change. My story was always a straight story. My story was always the truth. But you'll have to determine for yourself whether or not his story changed. But I did not tape.
It was a smart way to make sure he stayed honest in those hearings.
Well, it wasn't very stupid, I can tell you that.
Wow. It wasn't very stupid. Let's break down what just happened there. First, world-class reporting, Fox News. You really held his feet to the fire there. Second, he seemed justifiably taken off guard by that compliment. And third, think about what he just said. He didn't just casually admit to misleading the American public. He also implied that doing so may have swayed Comey's testimony, which, if that was his intent, could constitute witness tampering. And on top of all that, he then implied he made Comey tell the truth about their conversations, seemingly verifying Comey's account, which is incredibly damaging to the president. So, yeah, Trump might actually be right. It wasn't very stupid. It was extraordinarily stupid.